report. We're going to go over a little bit of data before we bring the panel up here. There is a lot to be proud of and some things to work on in this year's report. First, a record number of construction, 323.3 million in new construction in just the central downtown area, which is Blair to Park. This is 70% more than last year, and we're going to see, I think, even new records here in 2025. We've added 6,280 residential units were approved for construction from 2020 to 2024, with 1,200 new residential units coming in 2024 alone, and another 900 coming just this summer here in the downtown. Downtown really punches above its weight class. It's only 0.84 of the entire city, but it's 9.4% of the total real estate taxes provided for the city. The population continues to grow. It's just under 35,000. If we could get 68 more folks to move, we could just be at 35,000. It's always like right below. Last year, it was like 33,996. Just needed one family of 4. I'm only a family of 3, so I couldn't have done it. That was a pretty good joke. Anyway, my wife says you can't explain it. Never mind. The overall office vacancy rate. Now, this is something that we are watching very closely. The office vacancy rate right now is at 14.9% as of Q2 in October. That's up 2.6 from last year. That is higher, admittedly, than where we would want to be. We'd like it to be around 8, 9, 10%. But I think you need to put it in perspective. There's a great map of many of our peer cities that all are over 20%. The national average, I think now is between 22 and 23%. So we are doing well in the office market. Although one shift we are watching very closely is the downtown employment. It has decreased by 6,373 employees since 2020. Certainly, we understand the public sector, the state government, and the Jeff 2, Jeff 3, and 1 West Wilson buildings. That we are watching that very closely because a diverse downtown with lots of workers, with lots of residents, with lots of folks like us coming into the downtown from all across the area and from tourists, all 4 of those need to be vibrant to have a successful downtown. So this is a number we are watching closely. I'm going to end on a positive note, which surprise for me. Visitor and tourism is up big, and we've got a huge team here from Destination Madison, our partners. We set a record last year in 2024 with $327 million in economic spend. That's about 20% of the entire economic spend of visitors in Dane County. And a record 9.4 million visitors came to downtown. Sometimes when you're stuck in traffic, that wasn't just on one day, though I promise it was across the entire year. So this report underscores downtown Madison's sustained growth and momentum. It draws attention to areas of strategic focus for downtown on economic growth, inclusivity, access, and enjoyment, all areas that will guide our foreseeable future. All right. This work, though, is just the beginning. We have a new strategic partnership created with the City of Madison, and I see Dan McAuliffe and many folks here from the city. We are working on a combined effort of 2 separate pieces of work: the City of Madison's Downtown Area Plan and the Greater Downtown Economic Investment Strategy, creating Envision Downtown Madison, which aims to support a thriving economy and position the city as a national leader in thoughtful, balanced urban development. We started this work a few months ago, but we are really kicking it off with our first public event. We want to invite all of you to the Envision Downtown Madison public open house taking place on Tuesday, December 2nd from 6 to 8 at the Madison Concourse Hotel, also on Zoom. It is a hybrid meeting. So thank you again to Dan, Rebecca, and many other folks that are here today to make this a part. Come and be a part of this about 18-month process to really figure out and understand what the right strategies are to build a downtown that works for everybody. Registration is available on our website and the city's website as well, Rebecca and Dan. Yes, thank you. Again, let's give a round of applause to Rebecca Kinnair and Dan McAuliffe, who have been incredible partners on this work. We also certainly want to thank Mayor Satya Rhodes Conway, Alders Mike Verveer, Will Hovich, and MGR Govindarajan, who are all here today, who helped sponsor much of the legislation moving forward, but also Matt Wachter, Megan Tuttle, and Matt Mikolajewski, who have also been a part of this. This is something we have not seen in this community before, this coordination and cooperation. And we are very proud. In fact, we think we're setting a national model here with this work. And I know this will create a much better downtown. All right, you're tired of hearing from me. So let's bring up our fantastic panelists to say a few more words about what's happening in downtown. First up, we are honored to have Alder MGR Govindarajan from the City of Madison's 8th District. We also have Bob Bruni. You guys can come on up whenever you want. Oh, there we are. Yeah, good. Bob Bruni, President of Urban Land Interest and a member of the DMI Board of Directors. Christoph Spieler, Director of Transportation for the City of Madison. Amy Supple, Senior Vice President, Chief Operating Officer of the Edgewater Hotel, and co-chair of the DMI Board of Directors, and Cindy Torsveit. Yes. Brought your own cheering section, Cindy. I like that. Associate Vice Chancellor for Facilities Planning and Management at the University of Wisconsin. Please give a big round of applause for our fantastic panel. Alder, I want to start with you. As someone that represents a healthy chunk of the downtown, the student area, the western side of downtown, what do you and your constituents see as major issues and opportunities currently facing the downtown?
Putting me on the spot with a record number of people. Thanks, Jason. Hi, yes. Everyone. Great to be here. It's nice to meet all of you here. Sorry, say that question again.
Yes, there's so many absolutely. Staring at me. What do you and your constituents see as the major issues and opportunities currently facing downtown Madison?
Oh, downtown is so promising. You know, I think when we look at the opportunities, and for those who don't know me, I represent the campus district on the Madison City Council. So majority students, and I'm also the council vice president. So when I think about my constituency, we think about how promising downtown is. It is a place where it's filled with opportunity with how much more housing we can build, how many more businesses we can open, local businesses and entertainment areas. And that's just what I go to when I think about downtown, you know. But when I think about the issues, when I hear about those from folks, the big one that comes to me is homelessness. And I think that impacts everyone, whether you're a business owner or just a resident or anyone else in the downtown area coming and visiting, is that you're starting to see it a little bit more and more. So I'm going to take this opportunity real quick. So if anyone's feeling generous, the city has partnered with Friends of Shelters, Dane County, to address this problem a little bit through the men's homeless shelter opening up on the east side of Madison. So I think about how our opportunities and issues are very much aligned, because for our opportunities to grow even larger and pursue our opportunities, we got to fix our issues, you know, and homelessness is the big one that I think of and that I hear of the most in downtown.
Next question is for Bob. One of the highlighted numbers we had was the amount of real estate development happening here in downtown. What are you seeing as far as real estate development in downtown? And how do you think the pace of housing development, a big one we've seen with so many new residents, will continue into the future?
Well, Jason, as you said in the report, there's been a record number of construction projects over the last several years here, significant amounts of new openings of residential properties, a lot of development and construction going on with the university and other areas that way. And so I think currently there's probably the fewest number of projects under construction from a residential side that we've seen in a long time. So fewer openings next year, which I think will be good for the market as it continues to absorb all the new units that have come online just in 25. I think there's a lot of properties that open in late 25 that are still will be in ramp up stage coming into 2026. And the big question there is, how deep is the market that is ready and willing and able to pay $4 plus a square foot for residential space, right? So as costs continue to rise and things like that for construction, rental rates continue to push also. So how deep is that market will be interesting to watch as it goes. I think that there is still room for more product down here, more housing, but I also think keeping an eye on that healthy mix, and you mentioned this earlier, that mix of residential, commercial business, industry, and government, you need the mix to be able to support all the local businesses that are here in downtown on a regular basis. Residents don't support it by themselves. You need the business community coming in, patronizing those local restaurants, retail, and hospitality. And they've been hit hard over the last couple of years with cost of living increases, cost of operating increases that we've all seen across the board. And so they need those customers throughout the day, throughout the evenings, et cetera, to help support what they're doing. And so that'll be a big piece. As to future, I'm encouraged by the city's engagement to reimagine and reinvest in certain areas of the city, redeveloping certain areas of the city from Regent Street, the State Street Mall, John Nolan. These are all fantastic projects. It's really great to see the city's re-engaging in those things and engaging with this room also through the economic investment strategy that DMI is working on, that partnership, their openness to creating public-private partnerships along the way to help make development of those spaces more affordable and work for everybody, work for the community, work for the developers, work for everybody in this room. So that is really encouraging to see that partnership that's going on there. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah, you mentioned, a healthy part of the city's investment in downtown is in the transportation sector. And yes, it is very hard right now. We understand John Nolan is under construction. We know that Park Street will be under construction following, and that Regent Street will be under construction. But I'm going to answer my own question. You all should continue to support downtown, but know that each one of those projects makes downtown dramatically better. Whether or not it's the John Nolan project, which the bridges are just failing, but also adds the Madison Lakeway, the first gateway project, the Madison Lakeway project. Park Street will add, hopefully, BRT, the next line, north-south line, and Regent Street will dynamically change that street because right now it doesn't work for anybody. And creating these new corridors. So that investment is so important, particularly when we're on an isthmus. Krista, transportation is a big part of the success of downtown, but the entire city. What do you see as the current strengths and weaknesses in our current transportation system?
I think you touched on the weaknesses already. The bridges on John Nolan. And we appreciate everyone bearing with us. Those have to be replaced. We have no other choice. But I actually think the biggest strength is a little counterintuitive. Our biggest strength in our transportation system is the isthmus. I think in two different ways. One is it tends to channel everything into one spot. And the easiest public transit system to plan and operate, the easiest bike network to plan and operate, the most efficient street network to plan and operate is one that has a clear destination at the center that you funnel things to. And I think the isthmus has also done wonderful things for us in terms of the character of the city. In a lot of other places, we'd be looking out those windows and seeing a sea of parking lots, and instead we're seeing a lake. And that natural setting we have here is an extraordinary thing. So I think that's one of our biggest strengths. Another one is our public right-of-way. If you think of how much of the land in downtown is public street right-of-way, that is all space we can get together and reimagine how it works. And we're doing that in lots of different ways. You've seen some of that. You've seen the bike lane on Wilson. We're about to start curb management and really think about how those curbs work, which I think is a real opportunity to think about that, because I think deliveries, I think short-term drop-offs, I think there's a lot of things that is happening in our streets that we haven't accommodated well enough, and we have the chance to do that. And it's a chance to think of those streets as public spaces, as places where we have events, as places where we gather, as places where we get together. We have a huge amount of opportunities there. And I think the third strength we have is actually land use. Often the best transportation projects are land use projects. Every new residential building we have going in downtown is actually a transportation project, because it means people are able to live in a place where they have a lot of different transportation choices, and they actually put the minimum load on our transportation network. We have the capacity to handle all of those people. And our dense walkable neighborhoods are the core of our ridership of our transit network. They are what makes this place walkable. They are what makes this place bikeable. And when I look to the future, my question is actually, how do we continue those really amazing land use patterns that we have? How do we continue to make sure that growth is happening in places where we have a lot of different transportation modes? And I think we have some really big opportunities as the city grows to do some transformative things that people 50 years from now will look back at and say, that was an amazing decision.
Amy, tourism is a big part of the downtown. We give those numbers, record numbers again this year. How is downtown Madison going from a tourism and hospitality perspective? And where do you see potential growth in the tourism industry?
Well, thank you. And thank you, everybody, for coming. This is a big room. So the tourism industry downtown is going through a bit of a change, and it's really interesting. It's really exciting. The fact is that room nights overall, countywide, are substantially larger than they were in 2019. Also, the fact is there's been an incredible amount of hotel development, both in the downtown and outside of the downtown. And what we're seeing is some of the energy that used to be concentrated downtown is now going to sort of the bedroom communities outside of Madison. And so occupancy is actually a little bit lower than it was before. The good news, though, is that we're very bullish on the tourism industry for downtown. I'm going to share just a few stats that I look at while we're doing our business planning. First of all, as you can read in the report, our downtown office market's very strong, and we're seeing in-migration into the downtown. That's fantastic for the hotel community downtown. The Department of Revenue also projected this year that we're going to see a 2.3% increase, over 10,000 new employees in the Madison MSA from 2024 to 2028. That's new business. That means more travel, more business travel coming in, more opportunity. The pie is getting larger. What I'm even more excited about, though, is our leisure tourism. We have seen a shift where group and business travel has been a little bit softer in the downtown market than it has in the past. And it's not bad. It's just a little bit softer. What we're seeing is exponential growth in the leisure tourism market. So, you know, us personally, we're seeing a 5 to 10% shift in our business mix to leisure tourism. That's very exciting for us, but it's also very exciting for our downtown businesses, because people who come in for leisure tourism, they stay for a few days, they go out to restaurants, they go to shows, they shop in our stores, and you're seeing more economic spending downtown. So in the report, I did read it. In the report.
So have I.
Yeah, I know. We've seen the tourism spending downtown just in 1 year grew 4.4%. That's enormous. And it's 7.8% higher than it was in 2019. I went back and looked at an old report. But even what's even more interesting is when you break down that data, what you're seeing is 98.9% of that spending was in food and beverage, and 88.4% was in hotels. So, and that's a 4.7% increase year over year. I contend that the increase that we're seeing in food and beverage spending is because of the boom in leisure travel. And that is a huge, huge positive for us. I will credit the hotel community for this, but I will also credit our partners at DMI and our partners at Destination Madison. Destination Madison is working really hard with the hotel community to find ways to generate leisure tourism to this market. I was fortunate enough to see a presentation yesterday on their strategies for the future. Couldn't be more excited about it. This is a huge opportunity for us, and we should embrace it.
Yeah, we're so appreciative for the investment that Destination Madison has created. But I also want to mention there's been significant investment by the county in our airport, which is a major institution for us. And I want to thank Mark Papko, who is here, the new executive director of the airport. Big things are happening at the Dane County Regional Airport, which is only beneficial for our community. Cindy, how are you? All the way down at the end.
All good.
Good. As users and uses of the downtown and UW-Madison continue to evolve, how is the built environment of campus, a major part of the downtown, changing?
Yeah, thank you for that question, and thanks for having me here today. So we have about 4 million gross square feet of space that's currently in design and construction, right? That's about 1.9 billion in infrastructure investment that's taking place. And we're using that to really think about how are we adapting to change in technology that we're seeing. You know, higher ed is no different than any other area when it comes to change. So it's how are we adapting to the technology? How are we adapting to new pedagogy, which is how we learn and teach, but then also the new expectations of higher ed. So we're really thinking about interdisciplinary learning. We're thinking about both flexible classrooms, flexible buildings, also looking at our infrastructure. We're evolving in our sustainability initiatives and problem solving, mobility. We work very closely with the city, and we're very, very thankful for that relationship to figure out how do we get visitors, students, and people in and around campus. Big problems come with change. So, you know, housing, we partner with the city, we're partnering with DMI to really study this issue, and we can't do it alone. So, you know, we're getting ready to really embark upon some framework planning that'll be coming up this year, where we'll be starting to really take a look at our campus and how do we evolve for the future. But those are the things that we're seeing. And we know that DMI and the city of Madison and our partners at the state are really partners in helping us solve these problems. The local community, we're all about it. We're a city within a city, and where we go, we know has an impact on the businesses, the community, the visitors that come to UW-Madison.
We talked about Envision Downtown Madison, all the
Right.
planning the city and DMI and private organizations are doing, but you all are starting a large initiative as well, which is so fantastic for this coordination collaboration. Second question for you is, what are the top priorities you're seeing from this work that's coming up in the future?
Certainly, thank you. So I think one of our biggest, most top priorities is that humanities building, right? I'm sure everybody's familiar with the big concrete structure at the corner of
taken
Park.
A class in humanities.
Has everybody taken a class,
exactly.
right? Yes. I'm embarrassed to say my class was over 30 years ago in there, but it still looks the same. Unfortunately. But yeah, so I mean, that is a really key parcel. And I think our biggest priority right now is getting out of that building, relocating music and art out, and demoing that building so that we can unlock that parcel. It's a key place on campus, and thinking about what goes there, right? That's typically the first spot that students see when they come to visit. That's the gateway for visitors to campus. How are we utilizing that space and that placemaking with our community? And it's also our connection to the city on State Street, to the Memorial Union. So that's, I think, a big priority for us. I think housing is a big priority for us as we think about our infrastructure. We are at about 115% occupancy in our residence halls. So we have to solve this problem. I think we're only trying to house our freshman class, but we know that it's really important that they're on campus with the programs for student success in the long term. But we can't do it alone. We have to do it with the local community, because those freshmen graduate, they're out looking for apartments their sophomore year, their junior year. When they go to grad school, there has to be enough housing to support everyone. So we're excited to work with everyone to solve this. We haven't solved it yet, but I think we're really optimistic about solving it together.
Yeah, we certainly are appreciative of the conversations with the private sector, which is growing significant amount of housing right for students as well. I also just want to say thank you to Craig Thompson, in particular for some of the planning in the last few years. You all have created what I consider to be one of the economic development engines of our entire state near Camp Randall, with the new engineering building, computer data information sciences, Discovery Institute, chemistry. I mean, the list goes on. That's where the future jobs in our state are coming from. So thank you, Craig Thompson. Thank you, Cindy Torsveit, Ben Schmidt, Paul Belton, many folks that are in this room, and the Chancellor Mnuchin for that work. Question back to you, Alder. What policies and initiatives are needed to support growth in downtown Madison and ensure that it's economically strong, inclusive, equitable, and vibrant place? This is big, right? What policies do we need to put in place to make sure we see the downtown we all want to see?
There's so many. I mean, I think the big opportunity that downtown has that I hear from students is we want the restaurants and the bars maybe not the bars. Well, from students I hear it from.
I mean,
They say it. We want all of these entertainment places and places to go eat to stay open later. And so that's the number one thing when I think about State Street or just the broader downtown area. That's what
what's later? Because I go to bed at 9:30.
a little bit later.
A little bit later.
A little bit later. Maybe like 2 a.m., 3 a.m.
Does anything good happen at that time? No, I'm now a parent.
If the food is open, there's not as many bad things
Fair
that happen.
point. Yeah. Sorry.
So when I think about the policies we can implement there, I think safety. You know, how can we better light up our neighborhoods? How can we make sure that there's enough policing? How can we make sure that there's enough safety resources? And that's what I've been trying to kind of focus on over the last year when talking to city staff or just like focusing on the upcoming downtown plan that's coming forward. And Jason, I think DMI actually has a big role in that. You might have mentioned that. So, I mean, it's really just, I mean, I've had conversations with a couple people here. I think lighting is the number one thing that we can do right away because it's probably the easiest thing to do. Make sure that our streets are well lit and also avoid light pollution a little bit here and there as well. A little bit, you know. But beyond that, it is making sure that people can get in and out of downtown, especially later at night. Making sure our buses, sorry, Chris, making sure our buses are running later at night, making sure that there might be other opportunities for transportation, more B-cycles or more other public transportation as well. So I think that's where we have the most amount of opportunities and policies that the city and the private sector can engage in the best. And obviously I will get fired if I don't say this, housing. I mean, it is the biggest area that we see the need. We need to build more housing, and we need to build different types of housing. It's not just student housing we need to build. We need to make sure it's flexible because what if the university isn't enrolling 55,000 students next year all of a sudden? You know, not sure if that's the right number, Cindy. I'm just pulling it out there. But we need to make sure that the types of housing we're building can accommodate people who are students, who are EPIC employees, who are retired, any of that. So I think that's the kind of vision that I'm heading into when we think about policies for the downtown area.
The next question, I think, was for Christoph to follow that on, right? Mentioning transportation. As Madison and our region continue to grow, and we see this, I hope many of you were at the Greater Madison Chamber of Commerce's excellent annual dinner, where Zach Brandon, their president and CEO, went very closely over this growth that we're seeing. What investments are most needed to allow our transportation system to meet the current and, of course, these future demands in a growing city?
It's remarkable to me when I look at it, just how much our transportation system is doing right now. We opened BRT. We're already routinely standing room only on the buses, peak hour every day. We've got segments of UW where we're running a bus every 4.5 minutes and they are standing room only. If you get on the Southwest commuter path at rush hour, you will find yourself jockeying for space with a bunch of other people. I can point to sidewalks all over downtown where we are literally running into sidewalk congestion. If you think about these numbers, we want this growth to continue happening in the core of our city. We don't want all the growth to happen on the edges. We want growth to keep happening downtown. We want growth to keep happening next to the campus because frankly, that is the best place for it to happen. That is the place where it costs the least of your taxpayer dollars to support the growth, is the place we already have the infrastructure, which is here. But that means we need to keep beefing up that infrastructure. Like there's no way we can look at our transit network and say, 2 BRT lines, check mark, we're good for the next 30 years. I know what the growth numbers for the next 30 years look like, and that will not be sufficient. We have to figure out what those next projects are that will keep adding capacity, that will keep adding reliability, that will keep adding service to our system. We need to beef up all the systems behind the scenes that make that operate. I've been spending a bunch of time in Metro bus garages, and that driver's lounge in the morning is what makes this service run every day. We need to make sure that we have good facilities to deliver all of this service. And I think the biggest challenge we have is we need to be open to new ideas. Like, to me, one of the most fascinating parts of Madison is actually that place where the university and downtown come together, where a long time ago, the university growth cross south across University, and that really the heart of campus has shifted away from where it historically was to a place where it sort of blends in with downtown Madison. That is a wonderful thing that builds the life of the city. But also in the middle of that, there are some examples of 1950s traffic engineering that are probably not serving us particularly well. There are parking garages that are running out of capacity. There are some of the slowest places in the city to run our buses. There are huge gaps in the bike network and some bike lanes I would not advise anybody to ever ride on. I think we have an area there that we really need to think about. How can this work for this continued growth? And to me, part of the question I'm asking is, what are the big ideas? Lakeway is a big idea. What's our other big ideas? Because we've gotten so many of the big ideas of the past checked off. Monona Terrace happened, BRT happened. What's the next big ideas for this city? And that's why I really look forward to all these planning conversations.
Well, Christoph, I've got some ideas. Are you ready? One of the areas we are watching most closely is the office market. That is what's changing. We've seen that post-pandemic. We've seen that in a downtown that has a whole series of employees that are what's called remote capable employees. Bob, the question is for you. How is the office market faring in downtown Madison, and what is needed to attract and retain downtown commercial office tenants?
Well, thanks for your enthusiasm on the last question. And I appreciate some of the comments that you made, even about parking overflow and the need for some of that. And kind of going back to with the redevelopment of downtown and reimagining of downtown, making sure that we also set aside enough spaces and quality spaces and whatnot to be able to create new developments for office, for industry, for business along the way, because we do need that mix going on. And today might not be the right day for like office development downtown, but tomorrow, next year, type of thing, it will be there. We need business downtown, right? And that's part of a healthy mix that we need to encourage down here and make sure that we account for along the way, including parking access and things like that, to be part of the mix with other forms of transportation. As far as office goes downtown, I think as you mentioned, downtown Madison runs stronger office occupancy than most major markets across the country. So we're fortunate here that we're doing better than what you see out in the news as far as the rest of the country goes in a lot of cases. New York City gets a lot of press. They're doing well there, and maybe San Francisco has had a rebound in office. But outside of that, most markets, even similar size to Madison's, have much higher vacancy rates than we do. So there is solid interest in office in the downtown core district of Madison. There's good interest there. We've had good infill coming in from out of town, as Amy mentioned. And there is this flight to quality. So people want quality spaces. They want flexibility designed into and built into their spaces to adapt for their different team uses, right? Different people on their teams, they might use the space one way one day, and the next day they've got to accommodate a different group of people, a different meeting, different setup and whatnot. So they want flexibility into their office space or into their networking spaces, et cetera, and gathering spaces, huddle spaces, they're called, et cetera. So a lot of that has to be built in. The market, though, while there is solid interest in our market and we're doing better, it is still relatively thin, right? It's not as deep as we'd like to see. So we'd like to see that office market deeper as it goes and maybe spread a little bit more across that way. And really one of the biggest challenges from office, quote, office development, but more commercial real estate development is activating that first floor. How do you get retail, restaurants, things like that on the first floor? And it's really supporting those businesses and what they need to support and function properly, right? And function okay, capturing that day-to-day business that they need to support their business every day. And that's what then the office workers above or whatever in the upper floors help create that, right? So encouraging people to come back in the office. The collaboration that happens when you're in the office is so much different than when you're remote. And yes, I understand there are so many people that are remote capable downtown, but really creating that collaboration, that community that's there, the culture that you want in your business and in your companies, in your offices, that happens from being being present, being local and working together, having those day-to-day conversations. And then again, as we work, again, the challenge is how do we continue to then support those first floor retail, restaurants, hospitality, things like that we want there, because we want that coffee shop to be open for that meeting. We want the restaurant to be open for a lunch that you can have with someone. And we do that by supporting them on a regular basis. So
this is not fair, but Amy, in 30 seconds, tell us why the Envision Downtown Madison is so important for the work that we've been talking about here on this stage and in the report.
Well, the fact is the news is good for Madison. There is really strong growth in all sectors. And what we have to come to realize is that we have finite resources and great growth. And so to really be successful in the long term, what we have to look at is how to strategically manage and take advantage of those resources. For me, and in my opinion, and for what I think the work of DMI does, I look at this and I say, if we have to be really targeted in what we do and really smart about how we do it, how do we seed economic growth to keep this engine moving for Madison? What are the best places to put investment? And part of that, and why the partnership with the city is so important and so unique here, is that we also have to realize the city's not on an even playing field. I think a lot of us could debate different feelings about where money goes for city spending, and I bet we would have a lot of different opinions about that. But in reality, I've not talked to one person after they understand the state funding formula that says Madison has a fair shake. It is just not on an even playing field. And for us to continue to be an economic engine, we not only have to be smart about what we do here, but we have to create a case that we can take forward to the state and say, hey, we're pretty good here in Madison. Let's make more investment happen here. Let's generate more economic interest here. Let's have companies move here, build their headquarters here, bring employees here. Let's strengthen our downtown. Let's strengthen all of our communities. Let's improve our infrastructure. Those things are only going to happen if we all work together. So this partnership is so, so important. And I value the city's willingness to work with the business community on this in such a unique way. It's truly a special and very differentiated, or I'll say unique again. It's unique that this is happening. It might be the first time at this level that this is happening anywhere in the country. Rebecca and I were talking earlier. It's going to be an interesting ride, but we have good people around the table who have smart minds, who all want to do good for Madison. And I think if we can do that, we're going to see a great economic strategy that is paired with a great infrastructure and planning strategy in a way that Madison has never seen before. That's why it's important.
Well, come along for the ride. Let's give a huge round of applause to Cindy Torsvite, Amy Supple, Bob Burney, Chris Osweiler, and Alder MGR Governarajan. We greatly appreciate all that you do for downtown Madison. Also like to thank our sponsors again: Carlson, Black, O'Callahan, and Battenberg, Ho-Chunk Gaming Madison, JP Cullen, Lake Ridge Bank, Urban Land Interest, New Health Chiropractic and Integrated Healthcare, the Edgewater Hotel, Steve Brown Apartments, and all of our State of the Downtown sponsors. We will see you downtown so many times this holiday season with your bags full of goods from the retail and your belly full of food from our restaurants. Have a wonderful holiday season and happy Thanksgiving to everybody.